Welcome to this week's Blue Mondays. Blue Mondays is where we take a look at national, state, and local news through a progressive perspective. On this week's show, we have an in-depth interview in a News from the Underground segment with Dr. Barbara Connor. Barbara Connor has invited in Mr. Jonathan Carmouche of the Lafayette Housing Authority. He's the deputy director there, and he's going to tell us exactly what the Housing Authority does and explain to us a lot of the different programs that we have to offer right here in Lafayette. It's an incredible organization that are really encompasses a lot of very dedicated individuals, and I think that we should lend them some of our support. But first, as always, this week in the news. President Clinton on Fox. That's right, President Clinton appeared on Fox, which immediately you can think, what? Why? But shortly after the interview starts, interviewer Chris Wallace invokes the mock-you-drama that appeared on ABC called The Path to 9/11. He asked the former president, why didn't you do more to stop bin Laden? And the fireworks started. Most perplexing is how Fox advertised this interview, distorting the president's views, and in fact, saying that he went crazy, when in all actuality, the man was just defending himself, something that the Democrats greatly appreciate, I'm sure. Here is Chris Wallace advertising his interview on the Saturday prior to it appearing on Sunday. Take a look and see for yourself.
Chris joins me now here on set to talk about this. Wow, I have heard from people who were there in the room that this is quite the interview.
I've been in the business a long time, and I've never seen anything quite like this, certainly not involving a president or former president. Email, people want to know, why didn't you do more to bring bin Laden to justice? And I've got to say, Brian, and you know, you figured he would be prepared to deal with that. He went off. He started talking. He wanted to go back to Somalia in '93 and the USS Cole. He says that this is all basically an effort by right-wing critics to diminish his administration, and that George W. Bush isn't held to the same account.
So, now that you saw that part, now let's take a look at the actual interview. Here are some clips from that interview.
Why didn't you do more to put bin Laden and al-Qaeda out of business when you were president?
I'm being asked this on the Fox network. ABC just had a right-wing conservative running their little pathway to 9/11, falsely claiming it was based on the 9/11 Commission report, with three things asserted against me directly contradicted by the 9/11 Commission report. And I think it's very interesting that all the conservative Republicans who now say I didn't do enough claimed that I was too obsessed with bin Laden. All of President Bush's neocons thought I was too obsessed with bin Laden. They had no meetings on bin Laden for 9 months after I left office. All the right-wingers who now say I didn't do enough said I did too much. Same people. They were all trying to get me to withdraw from Somalia in 1993, the next day after we were involved in Black Hawk Down, and I refused to do it and stayed 6 months and had an orderly transfer to the United Nations. Let's look at what Richard Clark said. Do you think Richard Clark has a vigorous attitude about bin Laden?
Yes, I do.
You do, don't you?
He has a variety of opinions and loyalties,
right.
But yes.
No, we took vigorous action after the African embassies. We probably nearly got bin Laden.
Well,
I authorized. No, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I authorized the CIA to get groups together to try to kill him. The CIA was run by George Tenet that President Bush gave the Medal of Freedom to. He said he did a good job setting up all these counterterrorism things. The country never had a comprehensive anti-terror operation until I came there. Now, if you want to criticize me for one thing, you can criticize me for this. After the Cole, I had battle plans drawn to go into Afghanistan, overthrow the Taliban, and launch a full-scale attack search for bin Laden. But we needed basing rights in Uzbekistan, which we got after 9/11. The CIA and the FBI refused to certify that bin Laden was responsible while I was there. They refused to certify.
You think you did enough, sir?
No, because I didn't get him.
Right.
But at least I tried. That's the difference in me and some, including all the right-wingers that are attacking me now. They ridicule me for trying. They had 8 months to try. They did not try. I tried. So I tried and failed. When I failed, I left a comprehensive anti-terror strategy and the best guy in the country, Dick Clark, who got demoted.
So I ask you, what did the president say that was factually incorrect? How did he actually lose his mind? How did he actually go crazy? It's unbelievable to me that they start to attack his character in the typical Republican style. When the Republicans can't address the facts, they attack the person. We've seen it time and time again. It's unbelievable that they think that this ploy is going to keep happening. Instead, this interview really had to fire up a lot of the progressives, I being one of them. I think the president did a great job. Why don't they ask this administration why they haven't caught bin Laden? After all, how many years later is it now? 5 years later, and we still have yet to do anything about bin Laden. It's unbelievable to me that we're still dealing with these types of issues. Also, I wanted to point out that for the first 8 months of the Bush administration, it's clearly been shown through the 9/11 report that the Bush administration did nothing. In fact, they actually demoted the counterterrorism czar, Richard Clark. Not necessarily him, but the whole entire office. They demoted it down to a lower level so that the president was no longer receiving this information directly. It's unbelievable to me. I suppose that at this stage of the game, we probably shouldn't be surprised that Fox was trying to pull something like this. But it's unbelievable to me that we still are dealing with it. If anything, like I said, this has emboldened the progressives. So way to go, President Clinton. No oversight from this Congress. Well, here we go again. The Republican leadership of this Congress refuses to hold this administration accountable for what it's doing. All of these claims that we've had from this administration have not proven to be factual, especially in the situation of Iraq. This past week, Major General John Batiste testified before Congress, though not in an official congressional hearing. No, Republicans wouldn't allow that. So the Democrats had to hold their own investigative hearing, and in fact, they couldn't even call it a hearing because the Republicans wouldn't allow them to do so. However, here are some of General Batiste's comments.
The detailed, deliberate planning to finish the job in Iraq was not considered, as Secretary Rumsfeld forbade military planners from developing plans for securing a post-war Iraq. At one point, he threatened to fire the next person who talked about the need for a post-war plan. I believe that Secretary Rumsfeld and others in the administration did not tell the American people the truth for fear of losing support for the war in Iraq. And the result is 1% of the population shouldering the burdens, continued hemorrhaging of our national treasure in terms of blood and dollars, an Army and Marine Corps that will require tens of billions of dollars to reset after we withdraw from the country, the majority of our National Guard brigades no longer combat ready, a Veterans Administration which is underfunded by over $3 billion, and America arguably less safe now than it was on September 11, 2001. First, the American people need to take charge through their elected officials. Secretary Rumsfeld and the administration are fighting a war in secret that threatens our democratic values. This needs to stop right now, today. Second, we must replace Secretary Rumsfeld and his entire inner circle. We deserve leaders whose judgment and instinct we can all trust. We must rethink our Iraqi strategy. More of the same is not a strategy, nor is it working. Finally, we need to get serious about mending our relationships with allies and getting closer to our friends and enemies. America cannot go this alone. All of this is possible, but we need leadership and responsible congressional oversight to pull us off. I challenge the American people to get informed and speak out. Remember that Congress represents and works for the people. Congressional oversight committees have been strangely silent for too long, and our elected officials must step up to their responsibilities or be replaced. This is not about partisan politics, but rather what is good for our country. Our November elections are crucial. Every American needs to understand the issues and cast his or her vote. I believe that one needs to vote for the candidate who understands the issues and who has the moral courage to do the harder right rather than the easier wrong.
So that was Major General John Batiste. It's quite newsworthy when the men and women in uniform are standing up against the Secretary of Defense and against this administration and the political leaders against what they're doing. You know, this administration is constantly trumpeting the sounds that they're doing exactly what the men and women on the ground are asking them to do. However, we're finding out that that's not the case. It's too bad, though, that these brave men and women are forced to retire before their voices can actually be heard. You know, to have these men and women standing up before Congress and basically begging for new leadership in the Congress, urging the American people to vote out the current administration because they're not doing anything, you know, that's pretty strong. That's pretty strong. But where was this in the news? Nowhere. Well, here at Blue Mondays, we're going to try and bring you the news that you're not hearing in mainstream media. So hopefully you'll keep tuning in so that you can hear it right for yourself. Republicans are definitely running scared. No longer can this administration claim that they're doing, like I said, exactly what their men and women are asking for on the ground. It's not. They're not. This administration and the rubber stamp Republican Congress are not supporting the troops. That's fair and clear to us right now. Mind you, this is all happening the same week that the national security estimate was leaked, showing that all of the U.S. intelligence agencies are actually saying loud and clear that this administration's stance on Iraq is actually making us less safe. It's making the entire world less safe. It's the metaphorical going and hitting a hornet's nest with a stick. That's exactly what we've done. Meanwhile, the perpetrators of 9/11 are still not captured or killed. Osama bin Forgotten is still on the loose. Where is Congressman Boustany on all of this, you may ask? Well, he's following in lockstep with all of the other Republicans. He will not even admit that there are any problems over in Iraq. He thinks everything is going just perfectly. It's unbelievable that we're hemorrhaging all of this money over in Iraq when now we can't afford to protect ourselves here at home. Many of the items that are listed in the 9/11 report have not been implemented yet. Our ports are still not being screened. Our borders are still not secure. And we're hemorrhaging money over in Iraq, fighting a war that is unbelievably crazy. 51 men and women, after braving through combat in Iraq and Afghanistan, have now returned home and declared their candidacy for Congress. Guess what? They're all Democrats. Coincidence? I really don't think so. They're called the Fighting Dems, and we're going to see a lot of headlines from these 51 men and women. They're quite brave. Again, more information of this is on our show notes on our website. Jack Cafferty on CNN. Boy, you know what? Keith's got some competition out there. Jack Cafferty's been doing an incredible job. He stands up against the media love fest for the so-called congressional compromise to allow torture. Here is a clip from Jack Cafferty's report on CNN. Take a look.
The cause of some of the resurgence, if you will, of the Taliban has to be traced to the decision by the United States to put 150,000 troops into an invasion in Iraq. What do you think would be the problem with the Taliban if we left all those soldiers in Afghanistan? Do you think there would have been a 50% increase in the heroin poppy or the opium poppy production? Do you think the women would be running around that country now? Reportedly, some of them are having to wear burqas again as the Taliban begins to reassert its influence. I don't think so. And I think both of these guys are probably reluctant to say, you know, President Bush, you're part of the problem. You decided to invade Iraq. You had the Taliban on the run. You had killed a lot of the people in Al-Qaeda. You had, Osama bin Laden cornered in Tora Bora. You had these guys in your gun sights when all of a sudden Afghanistan became number 2 on your priority list because you wanted to run off and wage war against Saddam Hussein. But nobody's going to say that, except maybe me.
Jack Cafferty.
It seems quite clear that the Republicans are scared to death that they're going to lose the House and the Senate, thus meet their get-out-of-jail-free card that Jack Cafferty talked about here. You know, this legislation also has the bill in there that says that if anyone has tortured or ordered torture, they can't be prosecuted underneath this bill. It's unbelievable to me that the Republicans are going this far, but yet they're saying that torture never happened. Well, if torture never happened, then why do we have to have this part of this bill put in there that basically gives carte blanche to any of these individuals, that this administration is forced to torture these detainees? Cafferty also delivers a strong hit against against Bush's interview. Bush claims that when history records our issues over in Iraq, that it will be nothing more than a comma. Unbelievable. Take a look. Here's the clip of Bush and Cafferty's reaction.
Thank you, Wolf. Sometimes politicians say really dumb things. Check this out.
I like to tell people when the final history is written on Iraq, it'll look like just a comma. Because my point is there's a strong will for democracy.
A comma in the history books. That was in an interview with Wolf Blitzer. That particular clip ran yesterday in his Sunday program. Well, Mr. President, here's what that comma looks like so far. 2,700 American soldiers dead. 20,000 Americans seriously wounded, arms and legs blown off, things like that. Hundreds of thousands of Iraqis dead, including women and children, the wholesale slaughter of innocent civilians. Many of these people tortured before they're murdered just because they happen to get caught in the waves of secular rage that are sweeping through that country. It's violence unlike anything I can remember, and the United States and the Iraqi government are powerless to control it. An increase in the terrorist threat to the United States as a result of President Bush's decision to invade Iraq. That's according to the latest national intelligence estimate. We'll have more on that later in the third hour of the Situation Room. And appropriations from the U.S. Treasury to pay for all this comma, totaling $500 billion and counting.
Folks, we can't make this stuff up. We cannot make this stuff up. Again, if you'd like to see these clips in their entirety, log onto our website and click on to Blue Mondays. There you'll be able to find all of the links to these complete and total videos so that you can see for yourself. George Macaca Allen is showing his stripes yet again. George Allen, the senator from Virginia, who is desperately fighting to keep his seat in the Senate, is being exposed further. That's right. Here is a clip about a month ago of George Allen using the racial slur that has gotten so much press. Unbelievably, it's gotten so much press. But here you go. Here's a reminder.
This fellow here over here with the yellow shirt, Macaca, or whatever his name is, he's with my opponent. And let's give a welcome to Macaca here. Welcome to America and the real world of Virginia.
And here's the young man, S.R. Siddharth. He's a resident of Virginia, an American citizen, straight-A student at Fairfax High School, and now goes to the University of Virginia. Critics say that macaca is a racist slur and that you used it because he was dark-skinned.
Less than a month after this incident, now we're hearing that there might be a pattern involved here. That's right. Allegedly, Allen placed a severed head of a deer into the mailbox of an African-American family. Unbelievable. Up next week, we are going to bring you a full recap of the September 30th elections. You know, this is already being aired on the Monday after those elections. However, we're taping this a few days early. So, it's going to be really important. So next week you'll be able to tune in. You'll get a full update as to how the races played out. Again, we had elections all over the area for municipal elections in the smaller cities, as well as school board races in all of the surrounding areas. There's also some interesting races that are being run up in Opelousas as well. So you'll want to definitely tune in next week so that we'll be able to give you the full recap of how things turned out at the elections, and we'll go in and take an analysis of hopefully predict how things are going to work out on November for those elections. And that, guess what, guys, is your Democratic news for October 2nd, 2006. We'd like to thank you for stopping by Blue Mondays. Blue Mondays, again, is on every single Monday night right here on AOC Channel 5. If you're watching us on the internet via YouTube, we are now live on the internet at youtube.com/AOC Blue Mondays. There you'll be able to see our past shows as well as catch up on the shows that we are airing currently. You can also check us out at LafayetteDemocrats.org, or you can call us on our Democratic hotline. You know what? Call us up. Tell us how you think we're doing. Our telephone number is 769-7347. There you can get in touch with us at any time. And also, we'd like to remind you that Democracy Now! Plays on AOC Channel 16 at 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. every single day. And with that, we'll be right back.
Tick, 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 tick. Massive heat waves. Heat waves. Tick. Severe droughts. Tick, 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 tick. Devastating hurricanes. Tick, 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 tick. Our future is up to you. Tick. Go to fightglobalwarming.com while there's still time.
Hello and welcome to News from the Underground. We have a very important and interesting segment for you right now. We have a wonderful guest who has come over to talk with us. We have Mr. Carmouche. If you want to introduce yourself, hello.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Jonathan Carmouche. I'm the Deputy Director of the Lafayette Housing Authority.
Wonderful. Well, we welcome you over, and we're awfully glad you could take time out to come explain to us a little bit about what's going on in housing in this area. Well, listen, I wanted to ask you just to start off with, if you could give us a little bit of an overview or kind of maybe even just list what some of the programs are that the Housing Authority provides.
Sure. No problem. Overall, the Lafayette Housing Authority primary focus, of course, is on housing. There are other initiatives under that under the leadership of Mr. Walter Guillory that he has brought forward. And I think one initiative at this point that most people may be familiar with is the project on the St. Antoine's Gardens area, where the Housing Authority is constructing about 30 homes. And it's really a good, innovative program that Mr. Guillory, with his vision, he's always been pretty much in a frame of mind that he wants to transition people from public housing to actually owning their own homes. And that's really one of the, I don't want to say best programs, but that's one of the initiatives that we have really bought into, because you can actually see the transitioning of people, not just so much for housing, but the way they think about housing and how they think about themselves, the actual ownership, self-worth. And I think those are some of the tenets that at times we don't normally see, how people truly feel about themselves and how that impacts their families and their communities as well. So that's one of the main initiatives that we have going on. Also, in the Housing Authority, we have other components like the Family Self-Sufficiency Program, whereby clients off of Section 8, they're able to actually get on the program, the FSS program we call it, and actually generate an action plan. The coordinator, her name is Tiffany Singleton, she takes each client, sets up an action plan. And as that client's income increases, of course their rental amount increases, but that amount of money goes into an escrow account, goes into a saving. And they're able to actually utilize that money in 3 different categories. The first one is education. The second one is like a micro business, small micro business. And the third one, of course, and I think this is really good, they're able to take that money and create something towards home ownership. So we're getting right back in the home ownership mode. Then, of course, we have another department that's called the Resident Initiative Department. This department, specifically for public housing, generates resident programs based upon the needs. And so we can probably talk about the whole hour in this particular category, because not only is housing the primary focus, but once you begin to look at each person have individual separate needs. And so we create programs from those particular needs.
Oh, that's wonderful. So you can help each individual through the process of the program and tailor something to help each person kind of upscale their situation. That sounds great.
Real interesting, a lot of work, but it's fulfilling at the end of the day when you're actually able to see a person from when they initially came in and from their transition in the process. So it's really, really good.
Oh, I'm sure that must be heartwarming.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Well, tell me then about the difference then between, some people may be interested to know, and some of the difference between the housing projects and the Section 8 or other facilities that you might oversee.
Okay. Well, just if I can just kind of go a little back in history, when we look at the terminology of projects back right after the war around the Great Depression, it was a government project that the government put together this plan to provide affordable housing for its soldiers returning from the war.
Oh, okay.
So it was actually a government project started in around upstate New York, in Maine, Pennsylvania, somewhere around that. And the soldiers were allowed to live in the public housing projects. It was only a project, though. Like you have a project at home or a pilot program, a small group that you're actually working with to see whether or not it's going to be productive in the end. So project, the terminology, pretty much stuck over the years.
I see.
Once that became successful, the first public housing authority development was created in the inner city of New York. And so from there, people began to live in what we call now projects. But we call them developments now because we look at the actual developmental process from when a person comes in to the Lafayette Housing Authority when they exit out of it. So I just kind of want to give you, just to listen to the audience, a little history behind and why we call them projects or why some people call them projects.
Right.
I think most people really don't know the reasoning for it, but because of the stigma behind what has happened over the years, projects has received a negative connotation versus just a project that you may have at your home. You may have a bathroom project that you're working on.
Yes.
But outside of that, when we look at Public Housing Authority, we have 6 different developments that we call. We have one that's located off of Katy and Seal Circle. That's our elderly and disabled population. It's called Seal Circle. We have another one called Martin Luther King Jr. That's off of Martin Luther King Street in the Truman Townhome area. We have another one called Simcoe Development off of Simcoe.
Where along Simcoe?
Simcoe, near Simcoe and General Marshall. I think it's around that area. There's a little store, used to be Henry's store back about 5-6 years ago. We have another one called Macon Development. That's off of, it's parallel between Eras Landry and Cameron in that area. And then the last one is Irene Street, which is actually the newest one that was built late 70s, early 80s, around that time. And of course, that's our senior citizen and disabled population as well. We have 4 family sites: the Martin Luther King, the Macon Road Development, the Moss Street, and the Simcoe Development. And Simcoe, Moss Street are actually the older developments that was built around 1949, 1951.
Oh my!
Yeah, it's pretty old.
Yeah. Wow, and that's a lot to take care of.
Yes, ma'am.
And then now Section 8, how does that compare? What is that about?
The Section 8, when we look at public housing, Section 8, public housing is more so a fixated development whereby when people come into a public housing authority, they actually reside in a particular area, in a station area. Now, they can't transition from, let's say, Macon Road to Martin Luther King. There's a transferring process. But with Section 8, one of the benefits of Section 8 is that people have an opportunity to take a voucher. And the voucher is basically a certificate that the Section 8 department issues to that tenant to actually utilize that voucher in a house, a trailer, or an apartment within that jurisdiction. And so they have the availability to pretty much stay anywhere that the fair market rent is comparison with what Section 8 can basically pay for the unit. So when we say that someone is on Section 8, actually it's not the person on Section 8. It's more so the facility, it's more so the domicile where people are actually living, that home, that apartment, that trailer actually has met the Section 8 requirements to be placed on Section 8.
I see. So the requirements are more than just the cost.
Yes, ma'am.
There's some quality concerns.
Correct. There's, in reference to eligibility with the clients, it's pretty much similar to public housing. But one of the benefits, like I said earlier, is that people are actually able to move out of what we consider a stationary location and go and reside and pretty much become a part of that community versus public housing. And maybe that is the stigma between public housing and Section 8. People can identify public housing because all of the units are stationary. So Section 8, you could actually have someone that lives on the side of you that is living in a Section 8 home or a Section 8 apartment, Section 8 trailer. You really never know. Only if that person says that I'm on, or this place is on Section 8, or the homeowner says it's on Section 8. And pretty much that's the only difference, the separation.
Right. But I'm interested also that you do have some quality standards for these facilities.
Yes, ma'am.
Residences.
Correct. It's called, we abbreviated, it's HQS, Housing Quality Standards.
Okay.
And we have to make sure that we comply with the city. The city also has HQS. And actually their regulations, we actually follow their regulations, but ultimately we follow the HUD's guidelines for HQS to make sure that it's safe, decent, and affordable for all of our clients to actually reside in that particular place. And if they don't meet those regulations, well then our clients cannot reside in that location until it is brought up to code.
Well, that sounds great. Safe, decent, and affordable. Sounds like a good standard to me.
Yes, ma'am.
That sounds great. So then tell me then a little bit, you've been talking also about the homeowning side, and that's, I take it a whole program in itself.
Oh, yes.
And now I've heard that you'll help people who are not involved in the housing or projects or developments.
Correct.
And so tell me about that. How would that work?
It's a real creative process.
Okay.
Where we are right now, just kind of bring you current, we have identified some of our clients that are interested in this process in residing on the St. Antoine's Gardens, public housing in Section 8. We've had 2 meetings this year whereby we brought people current with the process, where we are with the purchasing, or the tax credits that we received from Louisiana Housing Finance, the time frame for the homes to actually be built, the requirements that the housing authority is placing on the tenants that will be living there. The first thing that we did was we wanted to make sure that not only people resided in a affordable home, safe and sanitary, but also that they received some training, that became educated in the actual homeownership process.
Yes.
Because one of the things that we've identified in Ms. Sandra Moore's office for community development, Terry and Leon, they really did a great job in working with with our clients on the home housing counseling, financial literacy, and also the housing maintenance portion of it.
Yes.
One of the things we found out was that people were eager to move into the homes, but their understanding about home ownership was very limited.
Yes.
It's not that they didn't want to move in, it's that their awareness of the process and what it takes to maintain a home was very limited. So we thought that in order to make sure that people were not only able to move in, but that they can maintain it, the idea came about to collaborate with Ms. Moore's office and provide some training for them so that when they were able to move in the home, that they can maintain it, whether it's in the homes for the housing authority or if they just chose to move outside of that process and go purchase a home somewhere else. They would still have the understanding and the knowledge about the process for it.
Well, that's wonderful. I know there's several parts of that, because at first there'd be the financial understanding about how mortgages work, and most people get out of school not having too much, and doesn't seem to be something well, at any rate, so that's an important thing to talk about, how those things work, and then also, as you say, maintenance. That's every homeowner has to fight that battle.
Yes, matter of fact, I'm working on mine now. Matter of fact, my wife may be looking at the show, and she'll probably say yes. She probably has a list of things. So I won't open it too much, because I may say something that's not on the list. So I'll be mindful. But that's those 3 categories in reference to our clients. And if the truth be told, we have a lot of clients that actually came from the homeownership perspective. But something happened in that process, whether it was financially, whether it was a personal situation that caused them not to maintain their home, or other situations. So we have a lot of clients that were aware of the process, and it's more of a financial situation that they're not able to go back in the process. But for a vast majority of our clients, as well as just nationally, when you look at credit is a big issue.
Oh, yes.
You know, and on Saturday, and I was speaking with the group Saturday at the training with Terry and Leon, and I was just relating to them that I understand about credit, because I was one of those guys that when I was in college, and I won't say the name of the university because I don't want them to get in trouble. Not so much get in trouble, but put a spotlight on it in that respect. We had credit card companies that would come out and physically locate right in front of the union where we purchase our books and get other paraphernalia. And they would give us T-shirts and candies and different things. Of course, being in college, you see that you have a credit limit of $1,500, $2,000. That's a lot of money to a college student.
Yes.
So we got the credit cards, not knowing that we had to actually pay for it back.
They don't tell you that part. No.
Well, my first credit card was American Express.
Oh, my goodness.
So, and I wasn't aware of it. I didn't understand. I just knew that I had a credit card and I could purchase things. So for our clients, I was relating to the story about my experiences, how important it is. So credit is a big issue with our clients. So when we talk about home ownership, the process that we're taking them through is so that they can understand where they are right now doesn't or will not determine where they will be in the next year or 2 years. So another phase of the home ownership on St. Antoine's Gardens, for those individuals that are not financially nor credit ready, there will be a rental process for those individuals so that they can actually prepare themselves, whether it's to purchase the homes here or in the general public. Either way it goes is a win-win. We're still producing homeowners.
Right, and in each case, incrementally helping people one step ahead.
Correct.
That's wonderful. Well, listen, I want to bring this to a pause, if I may.
No problem.
We've been talking with Mr. Carmouche, Mr. Jonathan Carmouche, who's Deputy Director at the Housing Authority here in Lafayette.
Yes,
We're awfully pleased to have you here. We're really learning a lot. We're going to take a short break now. We want to ask you, though, please come back for the second portion of our discussion. Thank you.
Don't turn the dial. Come back.
In the last century, Americans organized as our nation moved from a farm past to a factory present. Faced with gaping wealth disparities, corruption of our political process, destruction of nature, and a workforce unprepared for a changing economy, these leaders formed a new vision for democracy. Today we again see the dawn of a new era, from an assembly line past to an interconnected information future. And we must again rebuild our democratic community. One that stands for a world-class education, an economy that is both healthy and fair, a thriving natural environment, healthy people with accessible health care, a secure nation with international credibility, and working elections and engaged citizens that make all of this possible. Not bigger government, not smaller government, but better government. Not left, not right, but forward. The Democratic Party. America's party.
And welcome back to News from the Underground. We are enjoying an interview here with the Deputy Director of the Housing Authority here in Lafayette, Mr. Jonathan Carmouche.
Good afternoon.
And so we have been talking some then about different programs that the city and the Housing Authority provide. And I think one area that I think we'd like to highlight some more, I would, is this about how we move people in continually upward and into housing that is suitable, and also how we how is this decided? How does the city decide who gets a house or whatever?
Well, there's a criteria, of course, especially with federal funding. There is a criteria for low to moderate income residents within that parish. That's one of the criteria. Family composition, family size, financially, making sure that you meet the income requirements. The training, which is probably one of the, I don't want to say most important component, but for us it is one of the most important components to make sure that people are properly trained in the process from transition from where you are to where you want to go, whether it's in housing. And being that we're speaking about housing, that's pretty much the crux, is how people understand from how do you take yourself out of the rental aspect of saying that all I have to do every month is just pay my rent. Versus saying that this month, well, I know that I need to repair my central heating air. I need to make sure that my insurance is paid up. I need to do another termite inspection. It's 5 years now. I need to get someone to cut my lawn. The front yard is a little long. I need to make sure that happens. I have a tree that's in the backyard and I see the limb is kind of falling. Those components, unfortunately, as we interviewed some of our clients, those were the things that they were real leery about. Who's going to do these things? You know, and I think at times we homeowners, we forget how it was when we first purchased our home. We may have had stronger support systems, but for a lot of people, they don't have a strong support system, or their support system have never been in that or have never experienced that. We've had some of our clients in public housing that are 3-generational residents, and for different reasons. Majority of the time is economics. Other than that, it's educational, as well as the acceptance that my mother, my father did okay. Excuse me, we were raised in public housing, so it's okay for me. Not knowing that there are other opportunities.
Right. Well, you were telling me you have some individual work with these people to help progress them through, kind of step by step, maybe first into rental, I think you said.
Correct,
and then,
correct.
And then you have some training through the Community Development Office, I think you said, to help people with both the financial as well as the maintenance of housing. Now, it sounds like you all are busy, because you're not only checking the criteria of the potential homeowner, but then you also have a certain amount of responsibility to be sure that where they're going is suitable. I think you said safe and sanitary, which is that's a lot of responsibility.
Well, because it's important. You know, we're not in the business per se to actually sell homes.
Right.
We're actually in the business of building lives. See, and there's a difference. I think if you focus more on the homes, I think you're going to miss the humanistic side of it. You're going to miss the developmental process of not just that mother or father, but how it affects the children. So now the children and the parents have a home, but there's no process that the parents can pass down to the children. And that's where the training comes in at. That not only will the parents understand, but the day-to-day processes with the parents to the children. Now you have children aspiring to own their own home and understand how important is education, how important is the training, how important is credit. You know, which is of course is a big issue, not just for housing, but just nationally. If we look at, you know, the credit scores on a national level and the ability for people to actually go out and create more credit, from my understanding, it's not that good. So it's not just a housing issue, it's a national issue that we have to have more training and understanding how it affects ourselves today as well as 10 years from now. And as I said earlier, I know while I was in college, I didn't think about 10, 15 years from now. I said, well, I'm in college, I have 3 more years. You're going to be there once. I'll graduate, get a decent job, I'll pay it off then. But of course, in that span of time, I created more bills. So once I graduated, those bills were there. They were waiting for me. And for our clients, a lot of our clients were in the same situation. But I think one of the things that not only ourselves and other agencies we're doing, we're educating people about you start now. You take your time, you identify, and part of the training that Terry does, she identifies with each client where they are. She does an action plan for them. She looks at their credit score. She looks at the bills that are on their credit report, and she gives them instructions. You can contact this person. If you need, I can help you. I'll be there for you. We can call them together. Let's find out if you can set up some type of payment plan. Do you have any money saved? Let's try to agree to a common number of what you can afford. So a little bit at a time. So as they leave off and they're actually able to own their own home, they pass that same information and knowledge to their family members, the next door neighbor. Now before you know it, we have other people. So that's why I said that we more so focus on the person versus the homes, which the homes are important. But if you don't have the people that can fit in the criteria, you just have homes.
I hear you. You're really building not only knowledge, but a real sense of responsibility, as well as perhaps the privileges or whatever that go with home ownership and just being more in charge of your own financial situation. That's important.
Well, and even with just the whole aspect of home ownership, you look at the equity. You know, so when Ted was talking about, when she spoke about equity to the clients, and their eyes kind of lit up and saying that, well, there's a lot of things you can do with this little nest egg. You know, if you have children going off to college, if you want to pay off some bills, to decrease your income to debt ratio, if you want to plan for a vacation, if you want to get into your own business and, you know, create a business. There's a lot of things you can do with that. But if people only see it as another rental and not understanding that when you're renting, you can't go to the landowner and say that I've stayed here for the last 15 years. I know I have equity built up, you know, in this place. And so those are some of the benefits that we're transitioning over to our clients of what they can do as becoming a homeowner.
Right, and also I guess some training in how to maintain that, because you know, if you start mortgaging the equity for small things, then it's not there for the big things. You know, and that's a lot of that planning.
Yes, ma'am.
And all that. Well, this is some really important. Well, now tell me what kind of housing might be available, or what does the city have as a possibility?
The city, I know they have 3 programs, and I apologize if I don't get it exactly right, but I'm pretty sure. Melanie Lewis, she's the director of community development. We've worked with Joe Berg in his department, and in Sandra Moore, and now Terry and Leon. There's 3 programs of financial support that they have. They have one program that is a forgivable loan, where you can utilize $5,000. Of course, you have to qualify. You have to be within that category. The qualifying. Correct. You have to qualify. And the forgivable loan is that if you stay within the home, I think it's 5 years. The loan is forgivable. Down payment and closing costs. There's another sector.
But that's the $5,000, yes, $1,000 a year. It's
which is not bad. You know, if you think about it. And then the other $5,000 program, that program, you have to pay the loan back, but it's a low interest rate loan. I think it may be $39 a month that you have to pay it back. You know, so it's not bad. I mean, I wouldn't mind receiving $5,000 to put down a home and pay it back at $39 a month. The other program, this program is specifically for the homes that the consolidated government builds. And those homes, I'm not sure if you've seen them, but real nice quality homes. They have some off of Simcoe. They also have some in the VZ area. I forgot the street, maybe 12th. On one of those streets, they also have some off of Gilman, where our development will be built at. They have some as well as Habitat. But those homes, you can receive, I think it's a $25,000 grant.
Wow.
To reside in that. And it's a real good program. It's a real solid program that they're producing homes. They're producing people as well. And of course, Habitat for Humanity. They've really done a lot of good things in actually enabling people to actually build on the person's home, and then eventually somebody will build on their home, but they have to put in sweat equity.
Sweat equity,
yes, ma'am. So they get a chance to construct, get on the roof, you know, do some other items inside the home. But it gives them that, not only that understanding about it, but it gives them that self-worth. That I am putting time and energy into this home. So you have to me, when people are able to do that, you have a better appreciation for what you have versus saying that someone just gave me a home or gave me this. You kind of allow it to get bumps and bruises. Well, I didn't pay for it. I didn't have to do this. But when you sweat and you put time in, you appreciate it. It's kind of like that knock on the head. You know, you appreciate what just happened. You know?
And I think it's important to realize that you have, both you and Habitat for Humanity have some very strong screening criteria. So it's not at all a sense of, some people fear, oh, it's giving away to the first person who walks in, but it's very carefully screened so that the program will be effective, so that this person will stay in the house. That's what I'm hearing, is a real effort at keeping a person in the house.
Yes, ma'am. And it's fair screening. We want to make sure that we have a good understanding of where a lot of our clients are just through the screening process, but we want to be fair with them. We don't want to do anything that is not fair and ethical when it comes to screening. So there is a criteria, there is a process, and just through our meetings, there's a lot of things that have changed since the initial, maybe about 3 years ago, of just looking at it up to where we are. But where we are now, we're all on the same page. So it makes it a lot easier going forward. But when we speak about the criteria, we always speak about a choice to our clients. This program is open to you. It may not be for you right now, depending on where you are. You know, you may not be at that mode now that you want to invest in a home. It's okay. Take advantage of the training, though. If you take advantage of the training, you may decide to move to Houston, California next month. This training can be utilized anywhere that you go. Anywhere, and that's the beauty of it. It's not just the homes that we want to focus on, but the training that comes with it to prepare people so that they don't become entrapped, in what they know and what they don't know. We want to make sure that regardless of where they go, they can utilize and say, you know what, I'm glad that I had the training. So now I'm ready to buy a home.
Oh, this is wonderful. I'm really pleased to hear about the training and as well as tailoring it individually.
Correct.
That's an awful lot. And I'll tell you one other thing I'm glad to hear is it sounds like different parts of the city government or parish county consolidated government are communicating, that they're working together.
Yes.
This is terrific.
Well, we have a good relationship, and a lot of dialogue has gone into it. But one of the beauties of it is that we understand what the goal is. Even though we may take different roads to get there, as long as we meet up with at the same destination, that we're able to take different opinions, different ideas about how the process should be. And that was one of the beauties in working with consolidated government, like with Terry and Leon, was that we asked them about, how do you think our process is? Or there's some things that we may need to change a little different from their perspective, from their experience. And we took those ideas and it made our program a lot stronger. And that's what it's about. It's about being open, having dialogue, and being committed to the purpose. And the purpose is preparing people to become homeowners. That is the underlying purpose.
That sounds wonderful. Now, so you're going to be telling us then that the purpose of the housing authority is to get people out of housing authority rental situation and into perhaps a Section 8 rental, and maybe from there, maybe some other rental, and then, but along the way, the training and the responsibility of caring for a residence.
Correct.
And then eventually the training both in finance and maintenance to be a homeowner who sustains that homeowning position, which really puts someone into the community in many ways in a whole different light, a whole different perspective.
Correct.
Well, this has really been a very useful and enlightening, and I'll tell you, it's really a pleasure to realize that you do have all this screening and process, and that it does go step by step.
Correct.
You're not putting in somebody over their head.
No, well, we want to make sure that we don't do that. It would truly defeat the purpose of the entire process.
Yes.
Because there are people looking to become homeowners every day.
Yes.
But will they be able to maintain that perspective? Or will they be in the foreclosure process within the next 2 years? So
we don't want that.
We're defeating the sole purpose of what we consider homeowners.
Yes.
And that's just our perspective. And so that's why the training, the commitment, but also the partnerships are so important. And earlier I spoke about the residential department, and her name is Miss Camilla St. Julian. She's new on board. But one of the good things about her as well is that she has a good relationship with our residents, as well as our property managers. They just have the same thing. So the holistic approach is not so much just the homeownership, but it's the relationship that you have to have with your clients. There has to be some type of trust in knowing that what I am getting myself into is viable, is ethical, and is realistic.
Yes,
and so
realistic.
the staff that we have plays a big role in making sure that it's successful. A lot of times, I speak about Mr. Guillory, people speak about me, we speak about our supervisors, but it's the entire staff that plays a big part, because we all touch and see people at different points throughout the day, throughout the month and the year.
Right.
So if we're all on the same page, when they come and speak with you, you'll give them the same information that I have. And so that's one of the, I guess you can say that's one of the value aspect, is that we have people that are committed at different levels in the agency that can buy into it as well. So when you meet a client, it doesn't matter.
Right. Well, this is all really just such good news, and the whole hope of bringing people into home ownership and the whole economic development that we see. This is really important work.
It's good work
that you're doing there. I want to thank you very, very much for coming over to News from the Underground to tell us
News
about
from the Underground.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Good work.
And thank you for telling us about it. So this has been Deputy Director of the Housing Authority here in Lafayette, Mr. Jonathan Carmouche. We thank you very much for being our guest.
Thank you for
and
having
thank
me.
you for being with us on News from the Underground.
And that was Dr. Barbara Connor with Jonathan Carmouche of the Lafayette Housing Authority. Jonathan, we'd really like to thank you for appearing on our program. You did an incredible job of telling us exactly what the Housing Authority is working on. We'd love to have you back in the near future. As always, you can log on to LafayetteDemocrats.org for more information, links, and show notes. That way you'll be able to find all of the information that we presented tonight in a very clear and concise form. Also, while you're there, why don't you send the link over to a few of your friends and ask them to check out the show. Hopefully they'll be able to tune in with us next time. If you are in the surrounding areas and have just tuned in and saw us for the first time, we hope that you enjoyed our show. Again, give us a call, let us know how we're doing, 769-7347, or drop us an email at LafayetteDemocrats.org. On next week's program, we are going to bring you a lot of more information. As always, we'll take a look at the news that made headlines and what didn't and why next week on our show. And also next week on our show, we're going to sit down with Michael McHale. Michael McHale serves as the Calcasieu Parish Democratic Executive Committee Chairman, and they're doing a lot of great things over in Lake Charles that you won't want to miss. So make sure you tune in next week to see Michael McHale from Lake Charles tell us about what they've got going on in the Democratic Party over there. And with that, we'd like to thank you again for joining us, and tune back in again next week, Monday night at 9 o'clock on AOC Channel 15. Thanks a lot, and good night.